Hello everybody, welcome to Boxing Science. In this video, I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for unlocking maximal strength. Maximum strength is a maximal amount of force that you can produce, and this is vital for punching power. The reason why is that punch power relies on impulse and rate of force development. This is how much force that you can produce in a very short amount of time. During a punch, this can be anywhere between 60 milliseconds to 200 milliseconds, which is literally a blink of an eye. And there's studies that suggest that the stronger that you are, the higher rate of force development that you can produce. So an analogy is basically getting money in the bank, the faster that you can spend it, a little bit like Scarface. And at Boxing Science, what we do with our advanced athletes is work at maximum strength and work across a force velocity curve into lighter and more explosive actions. However, at Boxing Science, we perform load velocity profiles to see how our athletes respond to increased loads. And what we find with most boxers is that they're very well adapted at light and faster movements, not as adapted in comparison to other sports in moving heavier weights. So they're lacking in maximum strength. So a key goal for our athletes is to get stronger to then transfer into faster and more explosive actions. With maximum strength, the reason why boxers are a little bit behind is because of the lack of exposure to strength training from an early age, and also it is a fast and explosive sport. So they're more prone to lighter weights and being more explosive. So when we're doing a strength and conditioning plan, it's vital that we look to try and unlock that maximum strength. And this is what I'm going to be sharing with you now. So tip number 1 is to improve mobility, movement foundations, and core strength. So a big factor in heavy lifting is making sure that you're moving right and getting the technique right, and not having any mobility issues that can create limitations in the amount of load that you can lift, but also compensatory patterns that make maximal strength training quite dangerous and harmful. So what we need to do is improve mobility, especially around the hips and the shoulders and the posterior shoulders. Then we need to get the movement right in terms of working their movement foundations, so working up towards them compound lifts. So when an athlete comes into the gym for the first time, we're not just getting them on heavy back squat or heavy deadlifts, we're building up them foundational movements with the regression to the exercises. So for example, for back squat, we'd be working on the goblet squat, landmine squat, box squat, then progressing towards a full range back squat. And then another important thing is improving core strength. Core has to be quite strong and able to drive through that sticking point. A lot of loading is going through the trunk during key lifts such as squatting, deadlifting, and bench press. So we try and improve core strength through isolated exercises, the anti-extension exercises and the hip flexion with neutral spine. Make sure that the core is strong enough to withhold them loads so we're able to unlock maximal strength. Tip 2 is to do strength testing. The reason why we do strength testing is to highlight what kind of athlete that you're working with. Are you working with a faster and more explosive athlete that struggles with maximum strength? Or are you dealing with somebody that is really force dominant but not as fast and explosive? And we do this through our load velocity profile, so we can really highlight where an athlete excels and where they need to improve. Also, the load velocity profiling helps prescribe percentage of their 1 rep max, what they need to work at. With this testing, our programming becomes more accurate, so we're optimizing the training process. If you don't have access to load velocity profiling, performing 1 rep max testing or 3 rep max testing to help predict your 1 rep max on pressing, on deadlifting, and on squatting, to then transfer that into prescribing loads during your program. So tip number 3 is prescribing intensity and volume. So this is really important as part of the training process, that athletes are undergoing progressive overload over a certain amount of weeks, deloading and then going again. And you can do this in a few different ways to increase the amount of training load. The first one being intensity, which is a percentage of the 1 rep max. Athletes that are just starting doing maximum strength training, going anywhere between 80-85% 1 rep max for 5 repetitions before progressing into 90% or maybe even 92% of the 1 rep max for 3 repetitions. And the volume can be manipulated in terms of the rep ranges. So like I just mentioned there, 5 repetitions or 3 repetitions. Maybe with more advanced athletes, you can end up going to doubles or singles. And then the amount of sets that you do. So we'll be going anywhere between 3 and 5 sets. And what you want to do is multiply the weight load by the reps and sets, and this will equal your training load. And what you need to try and manipulate is that training load to increase by about 10% each time for week on week, to make sure that you're providing progressive overload to an athlete, and then making sure that you're having about a 20 or 30% drop off in deload, and then you go again. So with this process, it creates like clever programming, really structured approach to make sure that you're optimizing that training process. Number 4 is partial range lifts. You've worked with the athlete for a while now, you're working 80, 85, 90% of the 1 rep max. Now we're looking to try and overload that movement pattern by performing partial range lifts. This is doing something like trap bar deadlift on blocks, doing Anderson squats, so it's like squatting from the pins from a half or quarter squat position. And what this does, it reduces that range of movement, increase that weight load. So then this helps an athlete exert maximum force and intent. And overloading this is called supramaximal training, and supramaximal helps elevate maximum strength. So this is a very, very effective training tool that's used across a lot of sports, but it's particularly important for boxers because they've got quite a few movement limitations. This might affect their ability to lift and optimize the weight load lifted through full range of motion. So through a full back squat, through a maximum deadlift, are they actually exposing themselves to the maximum strength, maximum force that they need to promote adaptation? Doing trap bar from blocks, or doing a floor press, or doing Anderson squats can help really unlock their maximum strength potential. So we perform this for like 3 repetitions, maybe 5 sometimes, but at a lesser load. And we do this at either 100% of their maximum 1 rep max, and then we look to try and progress them up towards 120% of their 1 rep max. So if the 1 rep max is 100 kilos, they'd be lifting 120 kilos, so over stimulating them to promote that adaptation. This is where that partial range lift works, training super maximal strength, and we've seen some fantastic improvements from our athletes by using this training method. The 5th tip is to use accommodating resistance. So this is where we lift with bands. With the bands, it increases the tension throughout the lift, which will increase that length-tension relationship, the force that's needed at the top range of the lift, but also it increases acceleration during the lift. So for example, if you're deadlifting without the bands, you're only accelerating for maybe 30-40% of the movement. But what we find with accommodating resistance training at higher weight loads is that you're actually accelerating up 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the movement. So you're accelerating for longer, you're creating more impulse, which will transfer into gains in maximum strength and rate of force development. With accommodating resistance, a lot of people are guilty of doing this quite light, maybe focusing on it being faster and more dynamic. At Boxing Science, we suggest to be doing accommodating resistance 80% of the 1 rep max or above. And we do this on trap bar deadlifts, do it on squats, and we also do on our pressing exercises. Accommodating resistance is not only a fantastic tool for strength, speed and explosiveness, and also transferring towards the punching action, but also it's a fantastic tool to use to unlock your maximum strength. Okay guys, so they're my 5 top tips for unlocking your maximum strength. If you're wanting to find out more about maximum strength training or wanting help in implementing this, go and check out the Boxing Science online store, where you can receive 50% discount off your first purchase by using the code BoxingScience50. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment box below. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button to help the growth of the channel so we can keep providing you with content like this. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video.